day we met, unspoken understanding. Our bond was heaven sent. No one could tell us nothing. We would stay up till 2 a.m. Then real life started happening, but we made it work. We stayed strong and we showed them all that we belong. Looks like we made it. Looks like we made it.
What's up, family? It is Caden with UrbanFinance. I am excited about the conversation that we're about to have today. I am with today my brother Henry Johnson, serial entrepreneur and technology sales executive. And I've been knowing Henry for a little while now. One story that I do want to share, I actually not met Henry, but Henry was with me when I met my wife. He was one of the brothers that I was hanging out with, and we met her outside of this networking event. And one of the things that I think that Henry did on that night that was like, oh, I love and respect this brother, is that my wife had said, after we had a slight conversation with her, she was like, we were asked her why she was leaving the networking event so early. And she said that she had to go to church the next morning. And Henry, being the type of dude he was, knowing that I was into the church also, he kind of stepped back and I stepped forward. And that's how I really, really kicked it off for my wife. And so in many ways, Henry paved the way for me to meet my then future wife. And so I got a lot of respect and love for my brother. And one of the things that I love about Henry, like I said, he's a serial entrepreneur. And so every time I talk to Henry, he is always doing something new. He always have new and creative ways to make money. And so he's someone that can certainly share with you today the secret to creating multiple streams of income. So if you haven't already, go ahead and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and get ready for this conversation. So Henry, I did a brief introduction, but can you tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's funny. I almost forgot about that. I forgot that I stepped back and did the little intro there. I remember that night, but yeah, that's awesome. So a brief intro of me. I'm in tech sales. I work for a large corporation now, and then I also on the side do a lot of like entrepreneurial things. I own a few businesses and buy and sell businesses as well. So I'm always looking to find different ways to kind of make more money, as you said.
Nice. Buy and sell businesses. That sounds good. And I know most people that are watching this channel right now know what I mean when I say multiple streams of income. But can you explain to the folks a little what multiple streams of income means, just in case there's anyone out there that's unfamiliar with the term?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So by multiple streams of income, we mean making money from more than just one place, right? So instead of just having your 9-to-5 job, also having something else that makes you money, whether that's like an app like I have, whether that's vending machines like some of my friends have, whether that's multifamily housing like other people have. It's essentially not resting all of your laurels in terms of your income on one single stream of income.
Yeah. And so I think when people think of multiple streams of income, they often think of their job, which is a very active income stream, and then they think everything else is passive. Or they don't really know the difference between active and passive income streams. So can you tell the folks a little difference between active forms of income, or what you may consider active forms of income, and what you may consider passive form of income? And I guess, what do you think is the goal? Is the goal to get, what do you think? I'll leave it up to you. What do you think is the goal?
Yeah, so we didn't talk about this before, but so I don't in terms of passive income, I think it's typically more active than people make it out to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like like I remember you were doing like your YouTube, like growing your YouTube channel, like you guys will make money on YouTube once you get to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
Like some people may say like, yeah, now he makes passive income off YouTube, but like you making content all the time to like help grow that, right? Like, so it's not completely passive, granted, and it's not passive because you've worked hard to get to that point, right? So I think there are like things that you can build up, then that will then make money, without you working, and that is the goal. but it's
Mm.
not completely passive because you have to do a lot of work to get it to that point. Typically, is what is how I find it.
Yeah, no, that's so true, and I 100% agree with you. And I think it's good just to set expectations because when people think of passive income streams, they definitely think of YouTube, right? And so I
Mhm.
always talk about, I have videos that may do a few $1,000s, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's a video that it took me 10 minutes to make. But, it may have videos that I spend an hour to 8 hours on that made me $2,
Mhm.
and so it still requires a lot of work, a lot of effort. And so, and that I think that helps us set expectations because even things that could potentially become passive one day usually start as a very active income stream. And so, I think it's good to
100%.
just level set there. um and so, when I think about you, like I said, I certainly think of a serial entrepreneur because I know that, since I've met you, you've always been doing a lot, and a lot of things in the business sphere. And so, can you let people know some of the places where you have maybe developed additional income streams in the past?
Yeah, so I've done a bunch throughout my life. I mean, and I'd say 99% of them like never went anywhere that I found like that a good amount of money that I felt like
Mm,
I could be comfortable with. Right, I feel like a lot of people who consider themselves serial entrepreneurs, like you have a lot of fails before you have actual successes.
mm,
Like right now, I'm doing 3 businesses outside of like my main job,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I don't recommend. Like I'm super busy, but like one of them, it's doing well. Like it makes a few $100 a month, but like it's just way too much work in terms of it
Mm,
was way too much work in the way that I originally started it. It was a newsletter. It was an email newsletter that helped people get jobs at like fast growing startups. So what I would do is I would send out an email every Monday just about like a startup that I thought was going to be an amazing startup, like could be the next Facebook was the idea behind it. And people would pay $20 a month to get that email. And
mm,
it was growing and growing and growing. But like every Sunday, I would be, no matter what the case was, Sunday night, I'm sitting there writing, and these emails would be like 3,000 words. Like it was
yeah,
long. They were long.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. So I don't do that in the same way anymore. I've changed it. It still makes a few $100 a month, but it's down from what it was because I'm not doing as much work. It's just I say that to say like there's a lot of different income streams that I work with, but you got to find what works for you and the lifestyle that you want to live. Is kind of how I try to look at it.
No, that's beautiful, man, and that's so true. It's important to find the right income streams, and I think that's part of where I want the conversation to be centered around. Because there's a ton of things you can do for money to create additional income, but it needs to
Mm-hmm.
be right for you too, and it needs to be creating the type of revenue that you want to see. Just want to say a quick shout out to Thunder. What's up? Always good to see you in the comment section. What's up to Debt Free Dad? Always good to see you. And like he said, yeah, streams of income is a lot of work. If you're watching
Mm-hmm.
live and have any questions at all, whether it's around creating or developing additional income streams, certainly let us know in the comment section. And I'll be sure to ask Henry, or if I have some thoughts on it, I'll definitely share. I
So
also
okay,
place,
okay. Oh, sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry. I did get excited.
No,
Keep
it's
going.
all
Keep
good.
going. I'll finish and then I'll hop
And
in.
what's up, Auntie Nancy, all the way in Trinidad? Good to see you. Good to see you. And so I was gonna say, and I also have a link in the comment section. So if you guys actually want to come on, you don't have to show your video if you don't want to, but if you want to ask a question live, you can do so as well. And so go ahead. What were you gonna say, Henry?
So you said somebody said streams of income is work, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
and one of the things that I learned, like really, so I started that newsletter I talked about. It was called Rocket Ship Jobs, right? And I
Mhm.
had to write every week to make money. And then what I ended up doing is I changed it a bit, where now the way it works is it's just a database, and I send out an email once a week, but the email is way shorter. But now it requires no work from me, and the reason is and I think this, and I stopped you to say this because I think it could be valuable for a lot of people. Is I hired a virtual assistant to help me with it, and what I did is there's this website called Upwork, and on Upwork you can hire people from anywhere in the world, right? So you can go to people like, so my virtual assistant is from the Philippines. The Philippines is a lot cheaper place to live than the U.S. So I'm able to get a very well-educated person to work for me for and very dedicated to work for me for $5 an hour, right? That's how much I pay him. And I talked to him about it. I was like, how is this? Like, is this a good pay for you? He's like, so most of my friends work for U.S. companies are getting $1 to $2 an hour. So he's getting paid extremely well in comparison to friends of his, for the work that he's doing. But I could never find somebody. I would never even want to pay somebody $5 an hour here, right? Like, I'd feel bad. So what I've done is, like, now the work that I was doing, I kind of like, what do you call it? Like, set a checklist around it, like a step-by-step process of how to do it. And then every week on Thursday, he just does it and schedules the email to go out on Monday. I do nothing with that, but I make, I think now it's like $800, $900 extra a month, which isn't, it's not going to pay all my bills.
Money. No, that's a lot of money,
right?
especially for something that has now become a pretty passive form of
this
income.
Is passive now. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I think that's a lot, and I love that. I love that little tool of using Upwork to get people in different countries, because that's what Apple does. That's what Microsoft does. I've worked for international companies, and we have jobs that we would typically do. We outsource it to vendors in the Philippines as well. And so, major companies are doing that, and we can do that too on a minor level, but first we have to create something. And so I love that. And Debt-Free Dad says smart paying for assistance to free up your time. And that's what it's all about. And so the other thing that I really want to talk to you about, Henry, is the buying businesses aspect. I was watching a podcast that you were on, and you were talking about how you bought, maybe a few Shopify business, maybe one specifically that you own now. And so kind of wanted you to talk about the process of buying a business on Shopify. What business was that? What type of money do you make from that business? Is it something you would recommend people doing? So you want to speak on that a little?
Yeah. So yeah, that I bought a Shopify business back. When was it? It was June of this year is when not this year, 2021 is when I actually completed the purchase of the Shopify business. And I do recommend it for people. And the reason I love it is because it's reoccurring revenue, right? Like the way that I'm paid is like people subscribe for the app, right? And I think, and right now we charge $3.99 for the app. So they pay us $3.99 a month. And they just keep paying me every month. And some people unsubscribe from the app, but it's far fewer people unsubscribing than subscribing every month. So essentially, my monthly income from that is just growing month over month over month over month. And the reason is because this is an app that they need to run their business, right? So for anybody who isn't familiar with Shopify and Shopify apps, Shopify is like a website builder for e-commerce websites. So if you want to make a website to sell anything online, whether that's t-shirts, headphones, anything, right? Watches, whatever it is, you can use Shopify to build that. And then the same way that like Apple like kind of just gives you a phone, and then they have the app store that you can then go in and get other apps to make your phone better. Shopify does the same thing with their website. So people make apps and they have an app store, and you buy apps, you pay for apps to use, right? So people pay me to use my app, and that's how that app makes money. The one caveat I'd say for like buying a Shopify app for somebody is like, it's the same caveat I'd tell somebody if they were gonna like go into flipping homes, right? It'd be like, I'd say you should partner with somebody who knows how to flip homes before you start flipping homes. And I would say the same thing about like doing a Shopify app. Like, I wouldn't just go into it by yourself if you don't know how to code or do anything in terms of like being very computer savvy. Like, I would get with somebody who knows how to code and be like, look, let's go 50-50 on this. You'll put 50% up, I'll put 50% up, and let's buy this app together. And that's what I did. And I learned a ton through it. Whereas now I can go and do another one by myself if I wanted to.
Or hit me up, because I'd definitely be interested in buying the Shopify app, depending on what type of product it is. But I actually really love that idea because and the other thing that I've seen people do similar to this, people sell their YouTube page. And so like you can buy someone else's YouTube page, or you can create a YouTube page, market to a particular market, and then actually sell that YouTube page. And the reason why it works, like in terms of selling a YouTube page, it takes a really long time sometimes to get a YouTube page monetized. And so, it takes 4,000 watch hours to get a YouTube page monetized. And so I have another YouTube page that I have maybe 1,050 subscribers, but I only have 1,000 watch hours on the page. And so I need to get it to 4,000 in 1 year in order to monetize that page. And so people will pay good money because they know they could actually make passive income for the rest of their life. Like if I never make another YouTube video, I will probably make money as long as YouTube is around. Now I'll make less and less money as time go on, more than likely, because the content will probably become less and less relevant to that particular audience, but probably make some money for the rest of my life. And that's why I love, businesses like the one that you've set up, and like YouTube, where you can kind of set up an infrastructure that, that it helps you to, I guess, get into other places or create passive income. I guess a question for the Shopify: are you considering buying another Shopify app? Is it something that you're looking into actively, or is it something that you have a lot of work going on your current app, so you don't want to? And how much work is it? Like, how much is the upkeep for the app and things like that?
So to answer your first question, absolutely. That's like my like get rich plan at the moment, right? Is that I want to buy, like right now I have this one Shopify app. It's working, right? It works well. I mean, I probably respond to 2 or 3 emails a week, like that something's like not working right, potentially. And then I have my partner who will, look into it and fix it. So like I'd say between the two of us, we probably spend like 3-4 hours a week on it. And that's current, because there's like some bugs in it. If we can get to that point where the app has no bugs, like we really wouldn't have to spend any time if we don't want to. But there's also a lot of growth potential in it. Cause like, so I didn't tell you the numbers, but like when we bought it, it was making about $400 per month. And the way that you buy Shopify apps is you buy it a multiple of the monthly revenue. So it was making like $400 per month. And I think we bought it for like 25 or 26 times like the monthly revenue. So it was like 15, it was like 13 grand all in for it. And we just split it. Today it's making like $800-900 a month. And the multiples on Shopify apps have gone up. So we could sell it today for like probably closer to $40,000 or $50,000, right? 6 months.
Really does sound like real estate, though.
It's very, very similar. But the one of the big differences that I love about it is like in real estate, if I buy a multifamily house, let's say I buy a multifamily house, 3 families, I pay, it's a $400,000 house, whatever, right?
Pay 20 down.
I put my 20%, my 20% down. My like monthly reoccurring revenue from that is capped, right? It's almost, right? I mean, I can raise it a little bit, like I do some remodels here that maybe get it up to market rent, but there's only a certain amount that it's going, that house is going to get up to.
Yeah.
With the Shopify app, like I said, this thing has already doubled in terms of the revenue, and I've done nothing from a marketing standpoint. I've literally done nothing to like really try to grow it. My goal is to get that to like $6,000, $10,000 a month, and then probably resell it. It would be, because then I'll take that, if it's making $10,000 a month, I sell for 40 times the monthly revenue. Like that's good money. I can't do the math in my head right now, but that's kind of the idea behind it. And then and if I can prove that I can do that once, with my, like I bought this small one with my own money. I'll probably buy another one with a bit of a bigger one with my own money, me and my partner. And then I can take investors, right? I go, hey,
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
I've done this twice. The same way that a real estate person would, right? It's like, hey, look, I will do the work. You'll be a limited. Yeah, people do like you're a limited partner in this real estate
Mhm,
business. Give me the money, I'll work it, and then I'll flip it. I can do that
mhm.
with apps. Except the thing is, the profit margin's a lot better. I
Yeah,
mean, with software, and that's how I'm looking at it. And then I'll get into the real estate. The one thing I will say, it is riskier than real estate because
mm,
this app has been around for, I don't know, like a year or two before I bought it.
mhm.
Real estate's been around for hundreds of years. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's definitely never going to go to like being worth $0. Whereas my app, technically, it could. I don't see it happening, but there's a better chance than like
Yeah.
your house becoming worth nothing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And everything that it comes with a certain amount of risk. The multiples that you
Mm-hmm.
can do on the app definitely seems a lot higher than what you can actually do in real estate. And so that's really smoothly. I guess
Mm-hmm.
how difficult is it to sell a Shopify app? So if someone's like, okay, I want to buy an app, or like you mentioned, flipping it like you flip
Mm-hmm.
property, how difficult it is to actually get a buyer for your Shopify app? Do you have to market that yourself? Like, how does that work?
So if you asked me this like 3 years ago, I would have said it's kind of difficult. Like there was a few websites you could put it on. I forgot what those were called, but they weren't like super intuitive. They weren't great. Like they
Mm,
weren't great. But now there's this website called Micro Acquire, and it's essentially like eBay for buying apps. And you go on there, people will tell you everything about their business, like, and you'll be able to look like, okay, this business makes this much money. They want this much for it. Let me message them, and you just message them, and you're able to
mm,
talk to them about buying the app. That's not how I bought this one, but when I sell it, that's 100% how I'm going to do it. I'm currently selling the other one I talked about, the Rocket Ship Jobs one, which is actually called Startup Job Watch now. I'm actually currently selling that on that website, and I'm in the
mm.
conversations with like probably like 6 or 7 people. We were talking right before the holidays, so it's slowed down a little bit, but yeah, working to hopefully sell that before the end of January.
This person had Thunder has a comment slash question. Thought it's interesting. Said, I want to buy a multifamily home, a fourplex, and live in one. Do I have to let the other people know I'm the owner, or can I pretend to be a regular tenant?
So I don't know the legalities of it and everything, but I know somebody who does do that. By the way,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I know somebody who does that, who did that. Like they live in one of the units, and they have everybody pay the land. Like I think they have a property management company. That's why
Hmm.
everybody pays the property management company, and they just act like they're not the landlord because they don't want to
Yeah,
deal with it. So
yeah.
it's an
Yeah, and I
option
think
for
if you
them.
have a property management company managing your property for you, I think it's definitely doable. I mean, if you're the person collecting the checks, I think they'll probably suspect something. So, but I love that idea, Thunder. You don't want people coming to you with all of their problems. I can respect that 100%. I guess if someone was to do want to buy an app, would you recommend? And I know you said before you recommend that they probably try to find someone who's done it before. But do you recommend they probably use a site like the Micro? Was it Micro
Micro
Require or Micro
acquire, micro
Acquire
acquire.
that you mentioned? Would that be the best way to go about buying an app if someone wanted to?
Yeah, so that would be the easiest way. Just go to Micro Acquire. There's a ton of apps for sale on there. The way that I did mine, because I'm in sales, like I cold email all the
Yeah, yeah.
time. I just sent cold emails. I went on the Shopify App Store and just
Mm,
every app that seemed like it would meet my criteria, I just sent them an
mhm,
email and said, "Hey, have you ever thought of selling?" And that's how I found mine. But
mhm.
go ahead.
Are there, out of curiosity, so is this gonna be your main niche of side income stream or your additional income stream? That's another thing when we're thinking about creating additional income streams, right? People
Mhm.
always talk about that magic number of creating 7 income streams.
Mhm.
And it's a question of, so should I be focusing on trying to create 4 income streams at once, or should I be focusing on really developing a stream of income in an additional income stream before moving on to something else? What are your thoughts there?
So I wish I was in my other room. I could show you my board. I'm
Mhm.
currently doing a total of 9 things, right?
Mhm.
And that was one of like my New Year. Not like I don't make New Year's resolutions, but that's like one of my resolutions. Like I'm doing
Yeah.
way too many things, right?
Mhm.
I'm a believer in like focus. I think, well, I guess I can't say I'm a believer in it because I'm not doing it currently, but but that's like my 2020 is I think I need to focus more because there are things that I'm doing that have a lot of growth potential, but you're not growing them because you're doing so many different things, right? And I find that myself and like other people like me often will be like, oh, this is interesting. I'm gonna go do this, and this is gonna make me an extra, $400 a month. I'm gonna go do this, and this is gonna make me an extra $600 a month. But like, if you just focus, but if you see one that could potentially make you an extra $10,000 a month, like just maybe sometimes it's better to just focus on like double down on that one because it could be the one that like you don't need the extra ones potentially, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, no, I love that. And to like Thunder's point, Thunder wrote, "I don't want people knocking on my door at 2 a.m." And I using this point to bridge what you're saying, Henry, because it's the same kind of idea. Like we want some type of, and maybe this is not the best word, but work-life balance. I posted on Instagram today, more productivity doesn't equal more freedom. And it's kind of that ideology that we're doing more and more, especially those of us that has this hustler mentality, hustle grind. We're doing a lot, and sometimes we're doing so much that it's not leading to extraordinary success, successful,
Mm-hmm.
but not like extraordinary success in one area. And sometimes I really wonder if, we were to just focus on maybe one or two things or three things, and three
Mm-hmm.
may sound like a lot for some people. But I always think, for me, three, it's my main job, whatever my 9 to 5 is, um,
Mm-hmm.
my investing, because that's a big portion that has net me my investing has net me this year more than what my income is, and so
Yeah.
I believe in investing. And so that's the second income stream for me. And my third income stream, I would say, is YouTube. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I have other income, like I have Amazon, I have Google ads that are paying me. So I have a ton of different income streams, but sometimes some of those are paying $50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are good, like Patreon actually get a good, not even a good, but it's relatively passive. And so there are really some really passive income streams. And that's what I tell people. If something is truly, truly passive, then you can have as much of those as you want, like investing in the stock market. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
getting into non-passive income flows and trying to really build something, it's usually best to focus on a few things at a time. I'm someone that's definitely doing a lot at a time, so I can't tell
Yeah.
anyone just do one thing because I won't be truthful to myself in that, but limiting how much we're doing unless we're wildly successful in it. And
Yeah.
so for example, even with social media, I know a lot of people try to grow all of their social media accounts at the same time to build wealth and revenue, but it really sometimes hindered them from even building one of them significantly. And so I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind. You look like you
I
was going
think
to say
that's I
something.
think that's the best example. I think that's like one of the best examples. It's like people try to go like, I'm gonna grow my LinkedIn, I'm gonna grow my Instagram, I'm gonna grow my Facebook, I'm gonna grow my Twitter, I'm gonna grow my TikTok. And then like you do it for a week, like you're like, I'm posting 3 times a day here, 2 times a day. And I do it all the time. Like I'm posting 2 times a day and 3 times a day. But then you're like, then a week passes and you're like, I'm burnt out. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't do
yeah.
this all the time. But if you just say like for example, like I'm just doing YouTube. Like YouTube is my focus, right? And you get YouTube to the point where it's like I have 4,000 followers or whatever it is you said that you have, and then you go, okay, now I'm gonna continue to do YouTube because I built the muscle memory, right? It's like
Mm,
I do YouTube once a week or whatever your time frame is. I do it no matter what anyway. Now I have the muscle memory. I can maybe add something else, but like trying to add something else before you've kind of built the first one, it makes it tough. And
mm.
and I guess I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to everybody else here because like I was doing. I find myself doing that all the time. Like right now, I'm trying to build my TikTok, but like I'm not trying. But like I was doing TikTok and LinkedIn, and I was talking on Twitter. So I still do Twitter a lot, but I'm like TikTok's the only one I care that I make sure I post every single day, 3 times a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Everything
yeah.
else is whatever.
Yeah, I just got on TikTok. Somebody recommended that I got on TikTok, but even then, it's like, for me, I'm not a huge social media. I just got back on Instagram just because I wanted to start back posting my YouTube stuff. And I'm someone that always believe, like, before you can kind of post, hey, check this out, you kind of have to try to add value as well. Because that's what people are into, like, how are you bringing in value into my life?
For
And I
sure.
think that's what we should be doing as, um, content creators or whatever space you're in. I guess those that are still watching live, let me know if you have any questions for Henry. And just out of curiosity, feel free to drop in the comment section how many streams of income you may have, and if you want to go extra, how many, or you can drop how many streams of income you want to have by the end of 2022. And like I said, it doesn't like and I'll be lying if I said I don't have a ton of streams of income, and it works for me kinda, but I'm not a multimillionaire yet, so it's not where it's gonna be in the future. And
So
so
you mentioned stock. Would you consider stock a stream of income? Like because and I guess if you have a dividend, you do dividend stocks. Is that why you say it?
So I have dividend stocks, but it doesn't need to be a dividend stock because and so I invest both inside and outside of retirement accounts, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so a portion of my money is allocated to what's inside or outside of retirement account. And
Mm-hmm.
so, my accounts will show me here's your estimated income from dividends this year. And so that's money I can use if I wanted to. But even the growth, if I think I had last year about a $60,000 to $70,000 growth on my investments, right? Now I
Ooh,
have no
yeah, that's
intention of
fast.
taking the money out, but
But
if
it's
I
still you
wanted to
consider it.
touch some of the
Gotcha.
money, I could. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And so
Gotcha.
that's
Yep.
still available funds that I have to use. Now, the goal for me, and this is what my goal, my main financial goal is financial freedom. And for me, the easiest way for me to obtain financial freedom is through investment incomes. And so that's, we talk about which stream of income we're focusing on the most. That's my main focus in terms of additional streams of income, because I know I have a clear path to grow that to enough money to replace my income. Or and I always say I love what I do, so I'll never not work. But in order to give my wife the type of life she wants while she's not working as well, I need to be able to replace her income. And
Yeah,
so that's
yeah, for
kind of my
sure.
mentality. Like, I love what I do, so I'll always work, but I do want to be able to retire my mom. I do want to be able to retire my wife. And I always say I gotta retire my wife before I retire my mom, just because of order operations for marriage. And so,
I've learned it. I've learned it. I
you
gotta
know
know the. I gotta know the
that's
order
that's just how
operations.
the cookie crumbles.
Go ahead.
So someone said, I don't know which one of us sound like KRS-One, but bro, off topic, you sound like KRS-One to me, and that's Crown Christ. What up, Crown Christ? Thanks for the comment. Thanks for the comment. Thunder said I have 2 stocks and my job, but I am working on more. I want a fourplex. Hey, Thunder, you
Nice.
can do it, man. How
You
close
got
are
it.
you to having your fourplex? Like, do you need additional funds? Do you need to find a property? Let us know in the comment section, or feel free to click the link that I do believe that should be in the comment section and join the conversation live and let us know about your fourplex, or what you're actively doing to make that happen. And maybe we can talk about this too, Henry. And this is not about you, Thunder, but I'm just using your question as a way to talk about this. But I think sometimes we have, and you mentioned at the beginning, you don't have a New Year's resolutions, right? You don't do New Year's resolutions. And sometimes we set goals, but really don't determine ways to execute on those goals. I guess, how do you go about executing on the things that you say you want to do? And so can you speak to that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so like I said, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I do like set goals for the year and try to like take my life to the next level, right? I just try
Mhm.
to do it earlier than January. I typically like October will say, okay, Q4, this is the beginning of the new year. Let's go. Then I'll start doing whatever I want. And I try to break whatever goals I have down into like smaller goals. Like, so if I have like a number that I want, or a weight that I want to be by a certain month, instead of saying like,
Mhm.
okay, like for example, right now I'm getting married in June. I want to be 175 by May. I'm
Yeah.
182 right now. So it's not a huge, but I also want to be 18% body fat or less. So it's not a huge goal. It's not a huge, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that I need to take the inputs, right? The inputs are what's going to get me that output. So I
Mhm.
look at, okay, what are the inputs that I need to do? And for me, what I said is like I need to work out at least 4 times a week, right? And I'm doing intermittent fasting. Those are my inputs. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna do. So how do I work out 4 times a week? That's what I got to figure out. What I haven't been able to accomplish it last year. So why couldn't I? I always say I don't have enough time. So how do I find
Mhm.
time? I need to wake up earlier. So I'm not right. So I've been waking up every morning at 6:30. I go for a 20-minute run at 6:30, and then I lift at 11:30. And but because I'm waking up early now, I'm going to sleep earlier. So I'm finding the time, right? Like you have to make the time because the
Yeah.
time's
Yeah.
not going to be there. But I'm able to do that because I've set this goal, the 6 month goal. Then I set the inputs that I need to get to that goal, and I'm tracking it. I just bought like a new scale that tracks my body fat and my like all that kind of stuff. So
Mm.
that's kind of
Yeah.
how I
No.
look at it.
And I think that's the important thing. I think a lot of people, create goals, we create plans, but we don't really write down detail how we're going to actually execute on those. And I think the problem
Mm-hmm.
is executing for a lot of people. We all have
Mm-hmm.
ideas of what we want to do. Thunder wrote, I'm working on getting the 20%, or I can use an FHA, but that means I must live at the property. Yeah, and I always say you got to do what you got to do, Thunder. You got to
Yeah.
do what you got to do. We all got to start somewhere. I always thought that my first property would be a multifamily home, but it just didn't work out like that. Sometimes it just doesn't. And so, I'm not 100% confidence in buying in this current market a multifamily home in addition to my current property, just because the way my job works, they can move you. And I don't want to buy another property in Boston if I may end up getting moved out of Boston or something like that. You just don't know. And that's where I am at. But I am saving aggressively in order to buy a property when I think the timing is right as well. Because I do think real estate is a good way to get an additional stream of income. And as we're talking about additional streams of income, I guess and I would say I have a lot less income streams due to the pandemic, because I was doing things like Lyft and Grubhub and those type of delivery service. Just because I'm someone, like, if I'm bored with nothing to do, instead of sitting down and watch TV, I rather make some money that I can throw in the stock market. That's just how I feel about it. I think things
Mm-hmm.
are a lot different now that I have a son, and so the I can't just go. Go drive around when I'm feeling bored. Somebody got to be watching the baby, either myself or my wife at any given time. And so, I think that's why I like the idea of more passive forms of incomes, because family time is important and do consume a lot of time. And so, I guess, Henry, and I know the whole pretext for this conversation is multiple streams of income, but do you feel like it's necessary to build wealth? Because that's what most of us want to do ultimately. The goal is to build
Mm-hmm.
wealth. And
Yeah.
so, feel like multiple streams of income is necessary to build wealth?
I don't think it's necessary. Well, so one, I think wealth is everybody determines wealth differently, right?
Mhm.
Like for some people, like they have one number, other people their number's 10 times that number, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's one thing. But like you just said, right? Like your stock investments made you 60,000 extra, this year or last year. You're saying for some people that's like a whole that's a second wage. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's probably going to do it again next year and next year and next year. So like
Well, I don't know about
sometimes,
that. The market was
I
really good last year, but
oh
I don't want
yeah,
to pretend like I'm making
jinx
that
it.
every year. The market
Oh, okay, okay.
was
So
pretty good, but go ahead.
but investments can get you to a certain place. Like I'm reading this book right now. I don't. It's called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich," and it's all about
Mhm.
like essentially what we don't do a lot. Like I feel like a lot of people aren't doing well. Is like what you talked about, like doing your 401k, like having like a Roth IRA, like investing in those things month over month over month from your incomes. And granted, it's not going to kick you out like money to spend and enjoy, but by the you'll set yourself up to be able to retire with a good amount of money that sets you in the place that you want. For some people, that's fine. That's what they want. For me, like I'm trying to retire earlier than that, so like it's not going to put me in the place that I want. But so I need an income stream outside of my job, or I need just to be an entrepreneur completely, because that's really what's going to get me, in my opinion, to the type of wealth that I want and believe that I need. So I think it all depends on your goals and what your expectations are.
Yeah, and I always say I love Chris Hogan that always said retirement is not an age; it's a financial number.
That's a
And
fact.
one of the big things about I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the fire movement and things like
Mm-hmm.
that nature. And it's like you pretty much determine your retirement. So my wife, for example, not that she will retire, but she wants to be in a position where she can retire by 40, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
financial number in our goals. Like we have a goal that is a number that when we hit this number, she can retire. And she can
Mm-hmm.
retire because our primary investment income, so like I mentioned, even though doing other things, we know we can get to our retirement number through investment income
Mm-hmm.
potentially sooner than anything else. And extremely eliminating all of our debts. So if you have a very low, for example, we don't have a mortgage anymore, we pay off all of our mortgage, all of our debts, then what we need to consume each year maybe $4,000 a month. And we can do
Mm-hmm.
that with our investment income, but we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
wait to 65 or 60 when our retirement income, because potentially we can, if with no debt, we can potentially live on $70,000 a year, and that's 10
Mm-hmm.
years. Let's say that's $700,000. Say we're doing that 20 years, that's 1 million. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we
100%.
and so for us, it's a specific number, and I think it's breaking that mentality. I think that's one of the beautiful things about this age where we're in is like the money is out there, the resources
Mm-hmm.
out there. Like, and I'm not advising this, but there was a time where it was so hard to get a job, and now jobs still pay. Like, it's still there are a lot of jobs that pay you almost nothing, but you can work 100 hours a week. I'm not recommending people work 100 hours a week. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want people to think that I'm a slave driver, but I would say, there were weeks that I worked 100 plus hours in high school while going to high
Mm-hmm.
school during summer and things like that. And so my point is, there's enough jobs out there where someone can work 100-hour a week if they wanted to do it that route. That's not my route to wealth.
Mm-hmm.
But if they wanted to do that, they can work 100-hour weeks for 10 years and potentially, have enough income to last them the rest of their life. And so
Mm-hmm.
just putting out there the idea that truly retirement is not a number like we traditionally thought about it, like, oh, 60, I'm going to retire. I think when people saying they're retiring today, it's like, what age do I want financial freedom where my passive
Mm-hmm.
income can supply me the type of life that I want? And so it's kind of like a mentality, a mind shift from the older generation that had, 60 is retirement age, 50 is retirement age, my 401k will kick in then. That's why I always mention that, while I do believe in investing in a 401k, because if I do that, because of compound interest, $100,000 I
Mhm.
invest today can be $1 million without touching it in 30 years.
Mhm.
And so I can leave a $5 million legacy for my children, and that's how I think of my retirement fund. My retirement funds, those are more legacies for my children. Those are money
Mhm.
that I'll pass on to the next generation and stuff like that. But my goal, even though I'm someone that don't plan to retire per se, because I love what I do, I believe in doing things that you love, and I'm fortunate enough to do that. But I do believe, being in a position where you could passively replace your income. And so I think, you mentioned that everyone has a different idea when they think about what is wealth. I think that's
Mhm.
wealth. Wealth is being able to replace your income without having to work. Just out of
100%. Yeah.
curiosity. Yeah, yeah, Lawrence. No, I mean, and I know it sound aggressive. Lawrence said 100 hours a week, LOL, but I get the mindset. And and I will say there are people, coming from other countries like I did, that do that on a regular. Like they work
Mhm.
15-hour days, 5, 6, 7 days a week on a regular. And so, for some of us, especially those that have higher paying jobs now, or even parents may have been middle income or something like that. We don't even think about people that are out there working $100. And I don't think anyone should have to necessarily, but trust me, there are people that are putting in crazy, crazy amount of hours working. And they leave their family off in a better place for it, to be honest.
So one thing I'll say with that is like, there's also a way to think about that. Like, so I do a lot of things on the internet, right? And so one way I think about making money is like leverage. Everything, there's different forms of leverage, right? Like people think about like for example, money is a form of leverage, right? Like how you're doing with the stock market, you put your money into your stock
Mhm.
market and compounds over and over and over. Like that's money leverage. Like, but then there's labor leverage, right? Like, so for example, you said working 100 hours a week. Let's say like I was a podcast editor, right? And I could just be like, I'm gonna pump out a bunch of podcast edits, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna do as many as I can until I drop, right? But you could also do them till you get a lot, and then you find somebody in the Philippines, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, and you go, hey, this is exactly how you do it. And instead of somebody paying you $40 a podcast or whatever the going rate is, I don't know. You get paid $40 and then you outsource it to somebody else in another country for $15, $10, whatever the number is, and then all of a sudden you didn't really not much. You just got the job, but you made $30, and you also have increased the amount of work you can do, right? Because you got this guy doing it, you got another guy over here doing it, you got another guy back here, right? So now you've increased your potential of making money, and you've increased the hours that you can technically work. Because you could work 100 hours, but you can never work 400 hours. But if you got 4 people, you can. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that. You can work 100 hours, but you can never work 400. And I think that's
Exactly.
where we need to. And I always say, hard work doesn't lead to success, or hard work alone doesn't lead to success. And I'll highlight some of the comments in the comment section real quick. Lawrence said 100 hours a week. No, I read that one already. Thunder says we are thinking about getting a fourplex and rent out home. The money from the renters will be used to pay down the principal and the upkeep. Crown Heights says $100 a week. You must be Jamaican. I'm Trinidadian. Thank you very much. And shout out to all of my Caribbean folks. It's definitely how the older boomer Caribbeans work. It's unfortunate that it didn't have all the fintech and investments access that we have different times. That was Lawrence, and 100%, and that was one of the things that I was going to get at, the different times aspect. And I mentioned, hard work alone doesn't lead to success. And to Lauren's points, that's how some of the older folks worked, like those 100-hour weeks. Some people worked, came to the country and maybe only spent 2 months here, and they just worked for those 2 months and then go back home. But to Lauren's point, a whole generation of Black people in this country didn't have a lot of the access to things that that we have today. Didn't have access to like investing. And I always say, in certain jobs like a cashier, I always tell people like, what is the highest position you can have in your job? And if whatever that highest position that you can realistically achieve, like based on your education level, based on who they promote in that job, what is the highest level you can obtain in that job? And if that highest level does not get you the type of life that you want or the type of income that you want, you have to be planning to leave that job. Like it has to be in the back of your mind that I'm going to leave this job one day and this is how I'm going to leave this job. Because too often people stay in careers, for example, you may be a cashier and you know that based on your income level and where you're at, they're never going to move you up to manager. And it may be they'll never move you up to the manager because the manager that's there has been there for 50 years and they're going to die there, And so there's these whole different things. And people stay in these career fields knowing that their income will only go up 25 cents a year. And that cannot be the mentality anymore. If you can look 10 years in the future and know that I'm not going to be making the type of money, you have to be planning to leave. And that planning can be looking like creating a different stream of income, which is a business, or it can be getting a skill where you can get into a field where you can actually see a path to whatever amount of money. And I'm not even talking crazy money. Some people are in fields where they'll never make $50,000. They'll never make $40,000, And so I'm not even talking buku money, but if you can't see a future financially based on where you are right now, what you're doing for work, you have to be thinking about, how do I get out of there? That has to be part of the mentality or the mindset. 100 hours a week, that's 40 hours at regular pay and $60 overtime. I'll be honest, when I worked 100-hour weeks, I did not get paid any overtime. It would have been nice to get paid overtime. Past 40 hours, they were paying you off the books. And so,
that's kind of like overtime, though. There's no tax.
No tax. Now, this is not recent. This is high school. But past 40 hours, they were paying you off the book. And that I was in high school or in summer break at the time, past a certain amount of hours that was legally required for me to work. Everything else was off the books, And a lot of people work like that, So if the IRS wants to come after me for those high school hours, they can. 8 and 12 plex a commercial. I have more to learn. Thank you. And so it looks like people are sharing information in the comment section. But yeah, man. So just want to say, Henry, thank you so much for just taking the time to have the conversation with me. Thinking about the mentality of, multiple streams of income, how to go about creating multiple streams of income. I guess out of curiosity, I know that the app thing is a big thing for you now. Are there any other additional streams of income that you're seriously considering right now?
Yeah, I'm always considering other things, Ed, but I'm trying to stay focused this year. But one that I've been encouraging a lot of people to look at is vending machines. I know somebody's killing it with vending machines right now. Granted, it's not completely passive because you have to go fill up the vending machines. But if you get like 3 to 6 vending machine locations, you can just hire from one of your little cousins or a high schooler from the area. They go fill it up and then they just bring you back the money, right? Everything can be passive if you structure it right. So that's one that's been on my mind a lot. I think we lost Caden, but I'll keep running. So that's
I can
one.
Hear
one
you. I think I'm frozen though.
Oh, no worries. That's one that's been on my mind a lot. The other one that I talked about with being a podcast editor, and then you get the jobs and then you start outsourcing it to this guy over here, this guy over here, this guy over here, right? I think that's another one that can become a passive income stream that I think can make a lot of money. I have a friend who was an architect at one point, and he did that. Like he was working with me when I was up in Boston, and like I'd be talking to him, like, oh, I just got an architecture job, and he just outsourced it to. He had a guy in I think China at the time, and he would outsource it to a guy in China. Guy in China would do all the write-ups and everything like that, and then he'd send it back to the client. So like it was very passive for him because he had a full-time job and he was making money during the time. But like there's a lot of different opportunities to do things like that. And then the big one that I eventually want to get into is like self-storage units. Like so I want to buy like a big self-storage unit place and rent out self-storage units. I think that's really cool. But then also something that's a smaller version of that is like, those mail, if you go to like a UPS store and they got like mailboxes there sometimes. And it's like people will put they'll use that as their mail drop address. You can buy those and like sell those like it's like a monthly fee. I've heard about it. I haven't looked deeply into it because, like I said, I'm trying my best to put blinders on, but like it's another interesting thing. And Crown Chris, do I flip domains? I have not done any flipping of domains, but I recently started flipping not flipping. I buy NFTs, and I'm buying and selling a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm a flipper, just like again, in terms of like the idea of being passive, it's more work than I'm looking to do right now. But I'm trying to find something that it's like a recreatable boom, 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 boom that I can eventually like outsource to people is kind of how I look at everything.
No, I love that idea, Henry, and I'll definitely be talking to you more about that. The idea of I'll be thinking more about things that what can I do that I can actually set up the infrastructure for and then outsource to people. I think even with YouTube, that's something that I've had in mind. Like, I don't know if people who watch his channel may be familiar with Dr. Boyce Watkins, and he's been doing that a lot. Like his YouTube channel is now pretty much a place where he has a bunch of different content creators coming on and making stuff. And I love that idea, so you're not the only person that's actually putting out content. And I'm sure he gives them a cut of whatever they make and when they put out content on his channel. And so that's another.
He may just do it for like you got to think about it. Like if Dr. Boyce Watkins came to you, it was like, hey, Caden, like, do you want to put a video on my page? And he'd be like, but I'm not gonna pay you. You'd be like, sure, because I'm gonna link you. People are gonna come back to my page if I do a good job, and they're gonna follow me, right? So there's probably a lot of people doing it for that reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I would. And being a marketing person, I remember Dr. Boyce actually commented, and now we're in a super tangent. But Dr. Boyce commented on one of my videos before. He was like, "Hey, that was a really good video," and I definitely pinned his comments onto that video. There's like 300 comments under his comments, and that video has over 200,000 views, Wow. And so it's just but it's just about capitalizing on other people's names. Now the video already had maybe 100,000 views before he mentioned it was a good video, but I know just capitalizing on that would allow me to get even more views. Video because of the name recognition. I say all that to say, yes, I'm sure people would do it for free, but I hope he would pay some of them since they're regular content creators.
They're regular,
like a black channel. But it really depends on how much he's making, as well. But but I'll definitely be talking to you, Henry, about how you go about finding people in other countries to do the work over here. Because I love ideas. I love the thought of outsourcing and the idea of outsourcing and anything that would allow me to spend more time with my little guy. But any shout outs and can you tell the folks how they can best support what you're doing?
So just that website again, it was Upwork. I encourage everybody to check it out. Literally your full-time job, you may be able to outsource some things. Just check it out. It's very, very good. I love it. In terms of me, like I think the best place to follow me is probably Twitter. My Twitter is @Talk2HenryJ. It's Talk TO Henry J. So that's my Twitter. I am trying to grow my TikTok, but like and nobody talks to me there yet. So Twitter is where I will respond and have the most fun with people. So follow me if you want to talk more about it. In terms of like how can people help me, like just follow me on Twitter. Like I'd love to chat more about this and go do with this information. That's like the coolest thing to me, people doing this stuff. What's up, little man?
All right. Thank you for that. And I'll definitely yeah.
Future
And I'll definitely put
podcaster.
your Instagram information. You gonna let me talk? No. I'll put your information in the description, but I'll definitely put your Twitter information and stuff so people can follow you. But like I always say, thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you so much, Henry, for joining us. Thank everyone for joining. Thank you for the comments. And like I always say, God bless you. And remember to live your best life. You want to say bye?
God bless.
All right.
Peace.